A visually impaired young African-American girl was mockingly invited to perform at her school, yet her remarkable singing ability stunned everyone into complete silence. The Roosevelt Elementary Gymnasium fell into an eerie quiet. Marcus Williams, a 12-year-old student, remained perfectly still at the stage center, gripping the microphone that had been intentionally set at an improper height. 400 sets of eyes focused on him, though he was unable to see any of them. "Come on, Marcus, give us some rap music." Tyler Brooks called out from row 3, causing his companions to snicker quietly. "I'm sure you're familiar with all those urban tracks." Principal Johnson sat in the front section beside the school board members, showing no intention of stopping the harassment. Her artificial grin revealed her genuine expectations for the supposedly special presentation. Marcus had received his talent show invitation merely 3 days prior when Tyler and his group noticed him singing privately during lunch break, concealed near the basketball area. Putting the vision-impaired student on stage would be amusing. Tyler had whispered to Madison Chun, who served as student government president. Picture everyone's reaction when he makes a fool of himself while his family watches. They were unaware that Marcus Williams wasn't simply a 12-year-old struggling to fit into the school, where being different made you a target. Having lost his sight at 4 due to inherited glaucoma, he had cultivated abilities his peers couldn't comprehend. The capacity to perceive beyond spoken words, to detect genuine motivations behind each invitation, laugh, or act of kindness. When Madison had approached him 3 days earlier with her excessively sweet manner to extend the talent show invitation, Marcus instantly recognized the scheme. Her quick breathing, vocal tension, and muffled chuckle from Tyler's hiding spot all indicated a malicious joke. Rather than declining or revealing their plan, Marcus chose an unexpected response. He agreed. Participating would be a privilege. He responded with such composure that Madison momentarily wavered. "I have a particular song I'd enjoy sharing with everyone." Now, beneath the harsh stage lighting, Marcus straightened his stance. His hands located the correct microphone position with the accuracy of someone who had rehearsed this precise moment countless times during the previous 3 days. A barely noticeable smile appeared at his mouth's corner, the expression of someone concealing a secret too significant to reveal prematurely. At the auditorium's rear, his grandmother Dolores shifted anxiously in her chair. She alone truly understood Marcus's gift, the sole person aware of what occurred when the boy began to sing. 3 generations of gospel tradition flowed through the Williams lineage, and Marcus had inherited both the talent and the wisdom of when to employ it. Marcus made precise adjustments to the microphone, disregarding the laughter reverberating throughout the space. 3 days of careful planning had brought him to this point, but his true preparation had started years earlier when he learned to transform each humiliation into motivation for something greater. "Everyone be quiet," Madison Chun announced through the backup microphone, attempting to appear organized. "Let's allow Marcus an opportunity." The intentional hesitation before giving him a chance provoked additional laughter from students who grasped the underlying message perfectly. Tyler Brooks couldn't hide his delight. For months, he had observed Marcus singing in solitude during recess, always hidden, always defenseless. The concept of placing him center stage before 400 spectators, including parents and faculty, seemed like the ideal prank to establish his reputation as the school's comedian. "This situation is incredibly tense," Tyler murmured to his friends in the 3rd row. "I'll wager $5 he'll start crying before managing a single note." Tyler was unaware that Marcus Williams had been raised in a household where music served not merely as entertainment, but as emotional survival. His mother, Sarah Williams, had been a church vocalist before birth complications led to the hereditary glaucoma that would claim Marcus's sight at age 4. During the initial years following the diagnosis, as Marcus struggled to accept his altered reality, music became his connection to the world. Dolores Williams, his grandmother, was first to recognize that Marcus's vision loss had enhanced his remaining senses extraordinarily. By age 6, he could recognize individuals by their breathing patterns. At 8, he could differentiate authentic emotions from artificial ones through vocal tone alone. When he reached 10, his musical memory had become truly remarkable. He could listen to any song once and recreate it flawlessly with his own modifications and enhancements. "What's the delay? Marcus," someone from the audience called out. "Have you forgotten the lyrics?" Principal Johnson glanced at her timepiece again, her frustration obvious. She had approved Marcus's special performance primarily because Madison Chun had pressed for it, claiming it would demonstrate inclusion. In reality, Johnson understood the true objective. She had witnessed comparable situations during her 15 years in educational administration, different students being included in ways that merely emphasized their differences. Marcus drew a deep breath, recalling his conversation with his grandmother the previous evening. Dolores had clasped his small hands and declared, "Child, they believe your blindness represents weakness. They are unaware it's actually your superpower. Tomorrow, you'll demonstrate something they'll never forget." During the 3 days since Madison's invitation, Marcus had undertaken something the organizers never expected. He had thoroughly investigated every individual who would attend the auditorium. He knew the school board members' names. He identified which parents had recently become unemployed, which families were experiencing difficult separations, which students were battling problems they concealed behind false smiles. Tyler Brooks, for instance, wasn't simply the arrogant bully everyone perceived. Marcus had learned it through overheard hallway conversations that Tyler faced enormous pressure from his father to gain admission to an elite university. His mediocre grades and absence of special abilities left Tyler desperate for any form of social recognition, even if it meant degrading others. Madison Chun, the seemingly charitable organizer, carried her own struggles. As the daughter of immigrants laboring 16 hours daily to maintain a small restaurant, she had discovered that leading through intimidation and exclusion prevented her own exclusion. Even Principal Johnson had weaknesses. Marcus knew she faced pressure from the school board due to poor parent satisfaction scores, and that any incident generating complaints could threaten her position. However, there was something none of them knew about Marcus Williams, something he had only recently learned that would alter everything. Through weeks of careful investigation, aided by his exceptional ability to overhear accidentally revealed conversations, Marcus had discovered information about each tormentor that they never imagined anyone possessed. The microphone was properly positioned. The auditorium had settled into expectant quiet, but unlike the respectful silence preceding an eagerly awaited performance, this was a cool silence of an audience anticipating a humiliation spectacle. Marcus smiled faintly. His right hand secretly touched the small device in his pocket, a digital recorder that had been capturing relevant conversation for weeks. His left hand found a precise spot where he knew his voice would echo with maximum strength through the auditorium sound system. Each recent humiliation during past months had only strengthened the growing resolve within him, a quiet force nourished by the very injustice they attempted to inflict. What these privileged individuals didn't realize was that every contemptuous act was sealing their own fate, and that the blind child they underestimated possessed weapons more formidable than any they could conceive. Nobody in the Roosevelt Elementary Auditorium realized that Marcus Williams had spent the previous 3 days implementing the most detailed plan of his existence. While Tyler Brooks and Madison Chun prematurely celebrated their perfect prank, Marcus had transformed his apparent weakness into his most potent weapon. Everything had begun on Monday when Madison extended the invitation in her overly saccharine voice. Marcus not only accepted, he requested specifics. "What type of song do you believe I should perform? Do you have any particular recommendations?" His seemingly innocent curiosity caused Madison to lower her defenses completely. "Oh, something genuine, you understand," Madison had responded, her words heavy with barely concealed prejudice. "Perhaps something representing your heritage." Marcus smiled internally. Every word was being captured by the small device he always carried, a tool his grandmother Dolores had provided to document any harassment. What began as protection had become his secret weapon. Over the following 3 days, Marcus executed an intelligence mission that would impress professional operatives. His extraordinary capacity to listen to accidentally revealed conversations, combined with his perfect auditory memory, enabled him to collect devastating information about each tormentor. Tyler Brooks, Marcus learned, wasn't merely the privileged bully he seemed. On Tuesday, concealed behind lockers during recess, Marcus heard Tyler weeping during a phone conversation. "Father, I promise I'll gain admission to military academy. I understand you invested heavily in private instruction." The broken voice revealed a side of Tyler he would never display publicly, the overwhelming pressure from a military father who viewed his son as a constant disappointment. Madison Chin harbored her own dark secrets. Marcus discovered she had falsified participation certificates for extracurricular activities to impress colleges, using family connections to obtain recommendation letters from organizations where she had never actually volunteered. Worse still, she had intentionally sabotaged other Asian students at the school, spreading rumors to eliminate competition for minority scholarships. The most shocking revelation came on Wednesday when Marcus overheard a conversation between Madison and Tyler in the changing area. They weren't simply planning to humiliate him at a talent show. They were secretly filming videos to upload on social media, intending to transform his embarrassment into viral content for gaining followers. "Imagine the likes we'll receive with a blind little girl being humiliated," Tyler had stated, his casual cruelty making even Madison momentarily uneasy. "Tyler, isn't that excessive?" Madison had hesitated. "Relax, Madison. It's merely entertainment. He shouldn't have accepted if he cannot handle the pressure." Every word was carefully documented on Marcus's recorder, along with precise timestamps and detailed notes about context and location. But Marcus didn't stop at evidence collection. He went further. On Wednesday evening, seated in his family's small but comfortable kitchen, Marcus shared everything with his grandmother Dolores. At 72, Dolores Williams had witnessed more injustice than she wished to remember. However, she had also learned that the most effective way to combat prejudice was through strategic preparation and the undeniable demonstration of excellence. "My grandson," Dolores said, her experienced hands organizing the evidence Marcus had gathered, "your mother and I have always recognized your special gift. Not merely your voice, but your ability to perceive, to truly see people for their authentic selves." Dolores then revealed something that would completely transform Marcus's strategy. For years, she had quietly documented discrimination instances at the school, building a comprehensive file of incidents the administration had ignored or minimized. As a longtime library volunteer, she had access to information and relationships that could prove essential. "There's something you must understand about Principal Johnson," Dolores said, her voice quiet but resolute. "She's under district investigation for mismanaging funds designated for inclusion programs. If another discrimination incident occurs under her supervision, particularly something becoming a public scandal, she could lose her position." Marcus processed this information with the same strategic precision he had applied to his entire plan. Principal Johnson wasn't merely a passive observer. She was an active participant in a system that permitted and even encouraged discrimination. Now she had as much at stake as anyone else. On Thursday, Marcus made his boldest move. Using a library telephone during lunch, he discreetly contacted 3 local media outlets, including the television station covering school events and 2 influential community blogs. His message was simple yet compelling. "A special situation is developing at tonight's Roosevelt Elementary talent show. You'll want to document this." Marcus didn't specifically mention discrimination or bullying that would emerge naturally. He simply generated sufficient anticipation to ensure his performance would have a much larger audience than Tyler and Madison had imagined. Throughout Thursday, Marcus observed his antagonist with fresh perspective. Every cruel remark, every laugh at his expense only fueled his increasing determination. Tyler went as far as pretending to trip him in the corridors, accidentally knocking his books into a rainwater puddle. "Oops, my apologies, Marcus," Tyler said loudly enough for other students to hear, his false concern masking his obvious satisfaction. "You should watch where you're walking more carefully." Marcus collected his wet books silently, but his mind was calculating. Each additional humiliation would only make his revenge more satisfying and justified. Madison, meanwhile, had started expressing concerns about Marcus to other students. "I hope he won't be too embarrassed tonight," she told a group of classmates during lunch, her voice laden with fake compassion. Sometimes special individuals don't understand when they are being included out of sympathy. Now on stage in the auditorium, Marcus adjusted the microphone with precise movements, revealing meticulous preparation. His right hand discreetly touched the recorder in his pocket. 3 days of devastating evidence documented and ready for revelation at the appropriate moment. Tyler Brooks, seated in the 3rd row with his friends, had no idea that every cruel word he had spoken over the past 3 days was about to be publicly replayed. Madison Chun, organizing papers at the sound table, was unaware that her confessions about academic fraud would soon reach the proper school authorities. Principal Johnson, checking her watch again impatiently, didn't know that local media representatives were already discreetly positioned in the auditorium, alerted by an anonymous tip about a special event about to unfold. But there was something even Marcus hadn't fully anticipated, something he would discover only in the coming moments, which would transform his carefully planned revenge into something far greater than mere personal retribution. As he adjusted his posture at center stage, an unexpected energy began forming in the auditorium, as if the very atmosphere were charged with anticipation for a revolution no one saw approaching. Marcus adjusted the microphone one final time and smiled with the calm of someone about to rewrite history. "Before I perform," he said, his clear voice echoing through the silent auditorium, "I'd like to share something special with all of you." Tyler Brooks shifted uncomfortably in the third row. This wasn't part of the humiliation script they had planned. "Over the past 3 days, since I was so graciously invited to this talent show," Marcus continued, emphasizing invited with subtle irony, "I'd discovered much about my fellow students and about how certain people view students like myself." Marcus removed a small digital recorder from his pocket and held it up for everyone to see. "Fortunately, I possess exceptional auditory memory, and I also maintain a habit of documenting interesting conversations." The color drained from Madison Chen's face. Tyler Brooks attempted to stand, but his friends pulled him back into his seat, realizing that fleeing at this point would constitute an admission of guilt. "Tyler Brooks, for example," Marcus said, pressing play on the recorder. Tyler's voice echoed through the auditorium with crystal clarity. "Imagine the likes we'll receive with a blind little girl being humiliated." A wave of shocked murmurs rippled through the audience. Parents exchanged glances with expressions of growing horror. Tyler tried to object, but Marcus wasn't finished. "And Madison Chun, our devoted student council president," Marcus continued, his voice remaining calm as he played another devastating audio clip. "It's merely entertainment. He shouldn't have accepted if he cannot handle the pressure." Madison was visibly trembling now. Her parents, seated in the second row, looked at her with a mixture of disappointment and shame that cut deeper than any official punishment. But Marcus had reserved the best for last. "And our respected Principal Johnson," he said, turning directly toward her, who authorized a special presentation, fully knowing what the real purpose was. The next recording made Principal Johnson turn deathly pale. It was her own voice in a phone conversation she believed was private. "Let the boys have their fun. At least it keeps them from more serious trouble. And honestly, if the special child can't handle a little entertainment, perhaps he doesn't belong at our school." The auditorium erupted in indignant murmurs. Reporters who had arrived discreetly began taking notes frantically. Parents rose from their seats, some shouting demands for explanations. "But wait," Marcus said, raising his hand to quiet the crowd. "I'm not yet finished." He connected the recorder to the school sound system, and his amplified voice filled every corner of the auditorium. "Tyler, you mentioned I should be familiar with all the urban songs. Well, here's one I learned recently." Marcus began singing Amazing Grace in a voice that instantly silenced the entire auditorium. But this wasn't a traditional version. It was a sophisticated jazz interpretation demonstrating not only exceptional vocal talent, but also profound musical knowledge and flawless technique rivaling professional singers. Every note was executed with mathematical precision. Every modulation revealed years of secret training no one had suspected. The performance was technically perfect and emotionally devastating, proving beyond question that Marcus possessed more musical talent than any other student at that school. When he finished, complete silence followed. Then slowly, one person began applauding. Then another. Within seconds, the entire auditorium was on its feet in a standing ovation lasting a full 5 minutes. Tyler Brooks had begun weeping, not from humiliation but from deep shame at realizing the monstrosity of what he had attempted. Madison Chun was covering her face with her hands, finally understanding she had crossed a moral line that couldn't be undone. But Marcus hadn't completed his presentation of justice. "Principal Johnson," he said, his voice now carrying an authority that commanded even adult attention, "I wish to inform you that copies of these recordings have already been sent to the district superintendent, the Parent-Teacher Association, and 3 local media outlets present tonight." The principal tried to stand, but her legs failed her. She knew her career was over at that moment. I have also discovered some interesting information about the misuse of funds intended for inclusion programs. Marcus continued relentlessly. Documents showing how resources that should have supported students like myself were redirected to administrative office renovations and performance bonuses for specific employees. The final revelation was like a bomb in the auditorium. School board members in attendance began whispering urgently among themselves. The scandal was no longer just about bullying, it was about administrative corruption. Marcus placed the microphone back on its stand with the same composure with which he had begun. "The real tragedy," he said, "is not that they attempted to humiliate me. It's that they missed an opportunity to celebrate genuine talent because they were too busy protecting their own prejudices." As he walked toward the stage exit, Marcus paused and turned one final time to the audience. "To any student who has ever felt different, excluded, or underestimated, your voice matters. Your talent is real, and never allow anyone to convince you otherwise." The ovation that followed was deafening. Parents rushed to the stage requesting to meet Marcus personally. Reporters competed for interviews. And amid it all, three figures remained frozen in their seats: Tyler, Madison, and Principal Johnson, confronting the devastating consequences of completely underestimating the wrong person. What none of them could have imagined was that tonight was merely the beginning. Marcus's recordings would not only destroy careers and reputations, they would catalyze a comprehensive investigation revealing a pattern of systematic discrimination extending far beyond a single elementary school, reaching levels that would transform the entire school district forever. 6 months after that transformative evening at Roosevelt Elementary, Marcus Williams sat in the city's most prestigious recording studio, adding finishing touches to his first professional album. The same hands Tyler Brooks had mocked now created music touching thousands of people nationwide. The investigation sparked by Marcus's recordings had spread like wildfire throughout the school district. Principal Johnson didn't merely lose her job. She faced formal charges for mismanaging public funds and systematic discrimination. Her desperate attempt to deny the evidence only deepened the scandal when additional recordings surfaced, revealing years of prejudiced comments documented by other students who finally found courage to speak out. Tyler Brooks faced consequences his family never thought possible. The viral video from the talent show night, showing his cruel words followed by Marcus's transcendent performance, transformed him into a national symbol of privilege and bullying. Universities canceled admission offers. His military father, publicly shamed, was forced into early retirement. Tyler spent the following months in intensive therapy, confronting for the first time the real consequences of his actions. Madison Chun learned that academic cheating had legal consequences when investigators uncovered the full extent of her deceptions. Her fraudulent recommendation letters cost her not only college admission, but also resulted in criminal charges. Her family's restaurant faced boycotts organized by communities that wouldn't tolerate discrimination, forcing them to sell the business and relocate to another state. But Marcus wasn't content with personal revenge. The evidence he collected catalyzed systemic changes benefiting hundreds of vulnerable students. The school district implemented strict anti-discrimination policies, mandatory staff training programs, and an anonymous reporting system protecting students from retaliation. Marcus's story inspired documentaries, academic articles, and nationwide changes in education policy. Music universities competed to offer him full scholarships, but Marcus chose an institution known for its commitment to social justice and diversity. During the graduation ceremony at Roosevelt Elementary, now renamed Dolores Williams School in honor of his grandmother, Marcus was invited as a keynote speaker. On the same stage where he had been humiliated, he addressed a completely different audience: students, parents, and educators who had come from across the country to hear his words. 6 months ago, some of you attempted to silence me, Marcus said, his voice echoing with new authority. Today, my voice reaches people worldwide. The difference isn't what happened to me, but what I chose to do with what happened. In the audience, some chairs remained conspicuously empty. Tyler was in an emotional rehabilitation clinic. Madison was facing legal proceedings in another state. Former Principal Johnson watched from home, unemployed and facing criminal charges. Marcus concluded his speech with words that went viral on social media. They tried to break me because they thought I was fragile. They discovered I was indestructible. True strength doesn't come from never falling. It comes from using every fall as a springboard to soar higher. Marcus's success transcended music. He established a foundation providing free musical instruments and lessons to children in underserved communities. His first single, Unsilenced Voice, raised sufficient money to transform music programs in 50 schools across the country. The most powerful lesson of this entire story wasn't just about individual justice. It was about how one courageous person can catalyze change, protecting thousands of others. Marcus proved that the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies, but building something so magnificent that their attempts to tear you down become irrelevant. Today, when Marcus performs in sold-out arenas worldwide, he always dedicates a song to all the Tylers, Madisons, and Principal Johnsons who tried to silence voices like his. Thank you for giving us the motivation we needed to prove you were completely wrong about our potential. If this story of transformation through courage has touched your heart, subscribe to the channel to discover more stories about people who have turned injustice into inspiration and proven that success truly is the best revenge.